and welcome back to the Resleevables Revised Edition. I'm your host, Cedric Phillips, at Cedric A. Phillips on all of the things, and I am joined by Cody Rhodes' biggest fan. That's not true. Patrick Sullivan at Basic Mountain. Patrick, this is technically third edition, what we're about to go over.
It's confusing.
It's very confusing.
Because it's the third edition, but actually it's kind of the fourth edition, but also it's kind of its own thing.
Yes.
But it is known and was known colloquially as third edition or revised. This was my first set, and I'm excited to get to
This is where it all began?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I have a story there. We'll get to it in a little bit.
Okay.
I'll tell you all about it.
This is where the shilling is going to begin, by the way. So I think this is what the kids do on YouTube. Like and subscribe. There's like a bell that you can click.
Match that button.
Yeah, that. Do that. Obviously, we appreciate everyone who's already liked and subscribed the show and have left YouTube comments. We check it all out, right? I review the comments. I don't respond a ton, but we take a little look-ski. So we appreciate everybody who's enjoyed the episodes up until this point. And I'm actually really pumped about this set because it's like a mess.
It's a beautiful mess.
It's like they're trying to fix some stuff, but along their way of fixing things, they create other problems.
It's like receiving a drawing from your child.
Okay. Ooh, this is nice.
And then finding out later that they left all the markers out.
Sure.
There's a little bit of, but also it is sweet and beautiful in its own way.
It's kind of like, hey, you tried.
Yeah.
You tried. And you got some things right.
And would you mind just putting the caps on the markers?
That'd be great too. That'd be great too. So with that, as we always do, it's time to start with the facts of Revised. All right, we are here with the facts of Revised, aka third edition, sort of, kind of. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm just going to call this a lot during this set. I've never heard it referred as third edition in my entire life.
I've certainly heard it.
Okay.
Revised is much more common.
Yes, far more common. So let's go over the nomenclature here. Revised, or the Revised Edition, or third edition, is the third edition of Magic's core set. So let's clarify a little something here off the jump. Alpha is seen as 1A, which was 295 cards. Beta is seen as 1B, which is 302 cards. Unlimited is seen as the second edition of Magic core set, which is 302 cards as well. And then this one is seen as third edition of the core set.
Right, but this one includes reprints from previous sets. In addition, there are some cards from Alpha Beta Unlimited that were cut.
Correct.
So even though it is a core set, and in many ways it resembles Alpha Beta Unlimited, it is also materially different, both with cards added in from some previous expansions and with some cards taken out.
Correct. This is where things get a little bit messy because Wizards of the Coast, they made multiple attempts to print an improved version of the core set before finally getting Revised out the door. So obviously we weren't there, but the thought process here, it seems like, is, all right, we've made a couple of mistakes with ABU. We'd like to get a better core set out the door because this kind of acts as our, I guess I'll say, entry-level product to the game. So we got to do a better version of this. And then finally, they were able to, I guess, attempt to do that with Revised. Now, Revised, as Patrick did mention, is the first core set to rotate some cards out, removing several cards due to power level and complexity, and replace them with some older cards from limited expansions, which are sets we've already covered in Arabian Nights and Antiquities. So they've basically taken ABU, Arabian Nights, and Antiquities, and they just said, here. That's what Revised is, kind of.
Right. And so there's a couple things going on there. One is, as you mentioned, the power level outliers in Alpha Beta Unlimited finally removed. We're talking Black Lotus, the Moxes, Ancestral Recall, handful of others. Some of them removed for complexity's sake, as you mentioned. Off the top of my head, I'll mention Lich and Raging River as two cards that aren't particularly powerful, but are pretty complicated.
You would know the answer to this. Is Charizard in Revised?
It's in Arabian Nights, and it was not in
okay.
Yeah, Arabian Nights not in Revised.
Okay.
And from Antiquities and Arabian Nights, this is actually one of the best parts of Revised, in my opinion. There are a handful of just nuts and bolts designs in those two sets that they identified as, these play well. They're pretty simple. Talking Millstone, Curd Ape, a handful of others. So power level and the complexity stripped down a little bit. Handful of cards from the 2 previous sets that are pretty simple, played pretty well, were added, and that's how you get to revised.
And we talked about Millstone in our Antiquities episode, and how that one has just been kind of an all-time banger. You know, like kind of just broke it on the first go with like that kind of style of card, and then made it into this. So as you mentioned, they just kind of realized, and this is kind of a cool card that people like, and it plays well.
Yeah, Millstone. So super evocative, plays pretty well. Ivory Tower, extremely appealing.
Yep.
Reconstruction, nuts and boltsy, a little fancy, but nothing you couldn't add to a core set at uncommon or maybe rare for complexity's sake. You have Kurdate from Arabian Nights, really nice nuts and bolts card.
Yeah.
Urg Raiders, much the same. El Hajjaj. So a couple of cards that we spoke of in the previous episodes of saying like, oh, this card plays pretty well. This is appealing. This card's ahead of its time in terms of some design principles. A lot of those are pulled from Arabian Nights and Antiquities and put into revised.
All right, let's dive into the release of Revised. It was released in April 1994. The print run was estimated to be 500 million cards. So Magic is it's kind of going off.
Right. Each printing of the core set is pretty much an order of magnitude greater.
Yeah.
From alpha, beta, unlimited to revise, we're talking about 10x basically each time. And I think this is more than 10x over the unlimited print run.
Available from mid-April 1994 through mid-April 1995, cards were sold in 60-card starter decks and 15-card booster packs, with starter decks including a rule book with the iconic Shivan Dragon on the cover and a checklist on the back and last pages. But more importantly, Revised was the first set that had a supplemental product with a special gift box. Released on November 15th, 1994. It included 2 starter decks, 30 glass counters, a flannel bag for storing the counters, an illustrated rulebook, and a card collector's checklist, a product that you are familiar with.
So this was the first Magic product I ever received. There was a store in the mall, Bridgewater Commons, Central New Jersey.
Oh my gosh, you remember the store?
Called the Gamekeeper.
Okay.
So I believe the store was eventually bought out by Wizards of the Coast.
Okay.
I don't remember, but they primarily focused on Dungeons and Dragons and, dice, ancillary stuff like that. Other role-playing games, some board games, stuff like that. And at this point, I was into all that stuff. So every year for Christmas, my mom would walk into the Gamekeeper and ask the person working behind the counter, what's the most popular thing right now? And that year, it was Magic. That was the recommendation. So she purchased 2 of these 2-player starters, one for myself and one for my younger brother, opened it up on Christmas, and that's how it began.
I love this story.
My brother's pools were sick. I believe there were 4 rares, like 2 rares per starter.
Okay.
I don't remember for sure, but I do remember among his rares, Shivan Dragon, Taiga, and Badlands.
Wow.
Sick pools.
Wow.
I wanted the Shivan Dragon right away. My younger brother, we played a little bit, but he didn't warm up to the game the same way that I did. So he's got this Shivan Dragon, and I was like, I gotta have this. I gotta have it.
Sure.
So went to the Inquest guide, the price guide, and these things are so made up. But the low, so Shivan Dragon's up there, and it's like low $14, high $16.
Okay.
And I go, I'll offer you 14. And he's like 16. And we go back and forth like this. And I'm like, okay, 15. And he goes, okay, 16. And then I paid him the $16.
Oh man, you wanted it.
Yeah, I did
You
want it.
wanted
And he
it.
knew. I mean, he's younger than me too.
Yeah.
He could sense something.
He leveraged you right into the ground.
Well, I
Jeez.
had the Shivan.
I guess, okay. I guess at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Sure.
Who's the dummy?
Okay.
But that's how I got started. A lot of funny things going on there. The rule book is completely inscrutable, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So we tried teaching ourselves out of that. And one question that came up was, well, how much mana do you start with? Because I keep talking about mana and paying costs and where do you start? So we go, okay, let's just like pick a number. Where you start with that and we'll see how that goes. And I was like, I don't know, 20 sounds about right. Again, don't really know what's going on. So my brother is like, okay, fireball you. turn 1. And I'm like, okay, so those are probably not the rules.
Maybe 20's high.
Yeah, 20 is a little bit high.
Okay.
So we kind of go back and forth, like muddling our way through it for a while. And then it turns out a couple of my friends, including Eugene Harvey, had already been playing for a few months and had a much better sense of the rules. So I was able to kind of pick it up from them. But we started off with 20 mana in our pool.
What do you think? That's fine.
Not a really good setting for Black Lotus. You're already mana flooded, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that card's not good.
Another thing that came up was my brother one game cast a Sea Serpent.
Okay.
And I'm like, can I just destroy all my own islands? Because like they're bad for me now.
Yeah, sure.
And my brother was like, that doesn't make sense. And I'm like, I'm going to just destroy all my own islands. So I can attack with a Sea Serpent. And then Eugene let me know, like, no, it's like, you got to play where it lands. Like, you can't just be blowing up your own islands when your opponent's got a Sea Serpent.
It's called strategy.
Yeah. This is a strategy game.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. So there you go. Those were some of my early trials and tribulations trying to learn Magic's rules out of this thing.
I like that Magic very early on because now we see set boosters, collector boosters, just like all these products, right? When a set comes out, and it's like, yo, they were trying supplemental products off the jump, right? They're just like, how about 2 starter decks, give you a bunch of counters, bag to put the counters in, and you put it in a fancy box. Someone will buy it.
The counters were so sick.
Now, I think, so are these like the little blue, like, I'm doing a great job here. Like there's like these small, like little blue, like glass, like you can kind of see through like sea water blue.
Right. Like a half circle.
Yeah.
Like the kind of stuff you would see on the bottom of a fish tank.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. They were semi-opaque, light blue.
Yep.
I think there might've been also some dark blue or purple in there. There was a mix of the two.
Okay.
A little felt bag.
Yep.
Carry them around because you're a wizard now.
Yeah. So you got to
carry
them around something.
You
Your
tie
satchel.
it. Yeah. You tie it to your side or whatever as you go adventuring. And the rule book, which was worse than useless, and 2 starter decks. But it's funny to think about this as like a supplemental product because nowadays it's, okay, we have some players, they're new, we want to point them towards Commander. What do we do? Oh, we're going to actually have some game designers design some decks that are appropriate for new players in terms of complexity and kind of give them, let them get their feet on the ground a little bit and start getting a sense of things.
Yeah.
And this was like, here's 2 starter decks.
Okay.
See, basically like 6 packs slammed together.
Sure.
They're not decks at all.
Sure.
A sub-useless rule book, and then some beads in a felt bag. They've gotten a lot more precise about the way the products get made.
Good luck.
Right.
You buy this thing and it's just like, how's the game work? Read the book. I can't. It doesn't make any sense. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. And clearly, at least you did.
Well, I wouldn't have were it not for my friends who were already playing.
Sure.
So a lot to be learned there about, now we have Arena and other online ways of tutorialization. Back then you were just on your own. No internet. Just read the rule book.
That was the best. Just not
reading about
how
interrupts and instants and mana sources and, how does banding work?
Oh, good luck.
Yeah, it was an arduous journey. I'm glad I made it to the top of the mountain, but it was hard along the way.
Revised contains 306 white-bordered cards, 15 lands, 75 commons, 95 uncommons, and 121 rares. Previous printings of the core set had basic lands on every print sheet in an attempt to conceal the rarity of each slot in a pack. The revised update removed basic lands from the rare sheet, but kept them on both the common and uncommon sheets. The chance of getting a basic land instead of a non-land card is approximately 21.5% for uncommons and 38.02% for commons. So that's a little just number keeping and for those who care about the print runs and print sheets and that sort of thing. Let's get to the more fun stuff. An early advertisement in The Duelist #1 stated that revised cards would be gray bordered, but they ultimately remained white bordered like Unlimited. Now, if you've been with us for our other episodes, you know that Unlimited was meant to be published with a gray border, not white, but it was technically too difficult to do. You also know that Arabian Nights was nearly printed on a yellow on pink card back instead of the blue on brown used in all cards known today. I bring up those previous facts along with this one here that revised was supposed to be gray bordered because what the heck? Just leave it alone. They keep trying to print gray border and then the different card backs. I'm just thinking about what could have been
right
in Magic. And maybe if they got the gray border done, who knows what happens next? can we do blue?
Mhm.
Can we do orange? Like, what can we do?
Well, they were able to sort of capture the spirit of it with some of the unglued offerings.
Yes.
But yeah, at a certain point, someone, I hope, on the product side was like, we're not doing this. Stop bringing it up.
Yeah, I just like the idea of like, whatever the next set is, Legends. They're just like, hey, so gray border, it's been a couple of months. You guys got that figured out yet? Or and they're just like, no, we still can't do it. Stop asking.
Also, who cares?
Yes.
Who's asking for this?
Yes. But they keep trying. And then as we mentioned during the Arabian Nights episode, the yellow on pink card back, and then the next set what would have been, and the next set, just leave well enough alone.
Right.
That's all. Now, that's what ended up happening, as we know, but that's certainly not what they intended to have happen. Another final note here on the printing of the cards. Well-used printing films gave the cards faded colors, which many players actually complained about. The lack of quality of the set, both in terms of card power and the look. And I think the card power complaint does make some sense. Like, if you've been playing from the beginning and you've been playing with Black Lotus and the Power 9, and it's like, none of those cards are in here. Like, why do I want to buy this set? Which I think is like a pretty valid question.
It is a real thing.
Yeah.
Also because the reprints are the Arabian Nights and Antiquities reprints are largely low rarity designs.
Yeah.
So it's not even like you're finding, Mishra's Workshop or whatever. That's not part of the range of the reprints. I'll say, from my perspective, when I started playing, you have a limited budget, trying to like build up your collection, do the best that you can. And there's a question of what's the most effective ways to sort of generically add power to my deck. And by the time I was playing, it was Antiquities, Arabian Nights, Legends in the Dark were all out. And Revised was a way better investment on just adding raw power to your deck, I would argue, than any set other than Arabian Nights.
Okay.
So, yes, if you were playing since the beginning, Revised had very little for you. But coming in from where I was, once I got sort of a rough understanding of what was going on in the game, Revised boosters were actually more appealing than boosters from the older sets, just because they were, largely filled with garbage. And in the case of Legends, there were some good cards in Legends, but that set was so huge that there was no, like, you just go buy a Mana Drain.
Yeah, sure.
And not buy the packs. You go buy a Maze of Ith and not open up Packs of the Dark. So yes, it was certainly lower in power than ABU, but at the time, compared to the expansions that came out shortly before that, actually was much stronger, in my opinion.
Revised was the first set published in languages other than English. So there's French, German, and Italian versions of Revised. All had a black bordered and white bordered print run. Now, I know this is when you started. Did you know about this at the time? Was this a thing that you cared about if you did know?
No, I think they were a lot more strict about, these were not supposed to be collector's objects.
Sure.
Like, we just want to localize in the languages. The Italian print run gets sent to Italy. It's not lingering in the U.S. to let weird collectors play with Italian cards.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know how long it was until I encountered one of these cards for the first time, but certainly not for a while. It was different with Legends. That was a set that was printed in Italian, and those cards were considerably cheaper than their English counterparts, which is still true today.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were kind of building on a budget, you would go get the Italian Mana Drain instead of the English one. So I encountered them at that point, but in terms of the Revised cards, no, I didn't know about this or encountering these cards until many, many years later.
Got it. Revised doesn't have a set symbol, which you've probably noticed. You won't see that on the cards. You're kind of seeing it on the slides and the graphics here of this episode. Now, we do know that it's true for all core sets before 6th edition. There's no set symbol. The R that you see on the graphics is because we believe that was, well, we know it was created retroactively, and the belief is that it was created for Gatherer.
Mm-hmm.
So makes it a little bit clearer about what card is from what. Revised is designed by Richard Garfield with contributions from many, Charlie Cantino, Scaff Elias, Don Felice, Tom Fontaine, Jim Lynn, Chris Page, Dave Petty, Barry Reich, Bill Rose, and Elliot Siegel, developed by the same group as well. But the use of designed and developed here is pretty loose because it's just cards that are already done.
Yeah, no new cards in the set.
Yeah.
I do think that, again, the selections of the reprints from Antiquities and Arabian Nights, pretty thoughtful, pretty well crafted from the lens of sort of bringing down the power of the game and also reducing the complexity. But there's nothing new here.
No.
Yeah.
No. All right. So we went over the starter thing that you had. And I'll be honest with you. I almost bought one off the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like kind of expensive. And I was like, I don't know about this.
So I remember I bought one from Star City Games about 11 years ago, just as a nostalgic thing.
Okay.
For, I think that was $150.
Okay.
I was a little tight on money in 2015. Sold a lot of my Magic stuff.
Okay.
I believe I sold that to a dealer for $500.
Yeah.
And now I looked online and it's at least $1,000.
Yeah.
And they're pretty rare.
Now, one of the things about being able to do this show as a YouTube show instead of a podcast is like we get to get some fun products up in this place. So, shout out to our graphics maestro Ray Dill, who I was going over the script with him, and he's like, "I got the Pocket Player's Guide," and I'm like, "What?" Because we were gonna buy one for the show because they're pretty cheap on Amazon. So normally you're the one doing the reaching to shuffle your. What cards did you shuffle the crap out of? The Arabian Nights cards?
Place a City of Brass, a couple dozen mountains, the normal stuff. May
we present to you, wonderful viewers of this show, the Magic the Gathering Pocket Player's Guide, which I'm going to hand to you to leaf through while I go over what the heck is in this thing.
Everything you need to continue to not understand the game very well if you're a new player. Do you want me to just open up a page and start reading?
You know, that sounds fun.
Popular Magic the Gathering variants.
Oh, okay. So different
alter
formats.
the anti-selection process. I'm not reading that. The attack. You may announce an attack only once per turn and only during your main phase. You select the attacking creatures. Your opponent selects defenders. Damage is dealt, and then the dead are carted away. Okay, hold on. During an attack, only fast effects may be played. No sorceries may be cast, and no new enchantments, creatures, artifacts, or land may be put into play. Keep in mind that the following rules attempt to cover all cases and situations. Usually battles are pretty easy to follow. Celine says, I like battles with creatures. I think that's where a lot of the fun and strategy comes in. Celine is right. That's me. Decks with no creatures may be effective, but they're just not as interesting to me.
That's also true.
She should have been working as one of the designers here.
I agree.
Instead of that total sausage fest. Bunch of people just rather God and managing each other.
So let's go over what's in this book. I'm going to do this as best I can. As the player's knowledge, well, let's talk about the purpose of the Pocket Player's Guide. As the player's knowledge of the game and its potential developed, so did the knowledge of the designers and the developers. So their collaboration led to the first Magic the Gathering Pocket Player's Guide, which solidified the rules, or at least tried to. The Pocket Player's Guide is the guide to the cards of first edition, which is ABU, and the rules are revised. It was published in 1994. Did you know that there's two of these?
I did not.
Yeah. So when I spoke to Ray, and he's like, I have that, and then he went into his closet and he's like, which one do you want? I'm like, there's multiples of these things? So we might fire up the second one on a future episode. The contents of this book, I'm not going to go over all the contents, but here are some of the contents. The creation of Magic the Gathering, notes from the designer by Richard Garfield. It goes over the world of Dominia. To note, this is not Dominaria, it's Dominia, which I think is pronounced Domina?
I think so.
I guess. There's some notes about that world by Richard Garfield. Playing the game by Beth Morsund, the second Magic rules manager. Notes including sequence of play, the revised edition rules, difference between first edition and revised edition Magic. There's a chapter on developing your deck. There's a chapter on deck tuning by Jim Lynn, who was a former Magic playtester, designer, and developer for WotC from 1993 to 2002. There's multiplayer Magic. There is, as Patrick mentioned, an area about Magic the Gathering variants by James Ernest. There's Building a Magic the Gathering League by Joel Mick, who was a former Magic playtester, designer, and developer for WotC. There's Your favorite part. The Duelist Convocation Magic Tournament Rules by Steve Bishop. Steve Bishop was a Magic designer for WotC, who was also the head of the Duelist Convocation and presided over the first World Championship in '94. Duelist Convocation is that's the DCI.
The Duelist Convocation International. You are not merely a card game player, but you are part of an international order of wizards.
That's right. Yes, we are.
So the DCI, that is sort of the foundation of organized play. The rules, the tournament rules at the time were approximately cheating is fine, just whatever. No one knows what's going on. And you got a DCI number.
Yes.
Which was your admission into the League of Nerdy Wizards.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
It's going to have to wait until, please ask your question. And then
okay.
I opened up to another really good page.
Okay, great. Do you remember your DCI number?
Yes.
Do you care to say it?
655394. It was updated to 2065539 when they turned all the 6-digit DCI numbers into 8 digits.
Okay. 42693890.
Okay.
I like that we remember those. They don't get used anymore. Yep. Just still up here.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Okay. So again, thumbing through this this book here, I've come to a section that's basically an imaginary Q&A about various creature keywords and how they work.
Okay.
This is page 213. Question. Okay. So what good is banding again? It's beginning to sound pointless. Answer. Banding allows the creature to control where damage goes. Creatures have to be blocked as one or let through. The controller of the band gets to assign the damage it receives, not the other player. Also, lots of little creatures can block together and foist all of the damage off on a particular partner they don't like, or one who can regenerate, or to one who is warded against the attacker's color, and they get to do all of their damage to the attacking creature. Sound better yet? Question. How do other creature fast effects work? Which is a really funny question because even in this imaginary Q&A, the person asking the question about banning is just tuning out. This person is just like, well, you just put it all on the poor other creature. And it's like, all right, just that. Hold on. How do other creature fast effects work? And then there's several paragraphs about Prodigal Sorcerer, which is not a very hard card to understand. So, also, this doesn't fit in your pocket. This is so big.
It's over 200 pages.
Yeah, this is wonderful. This is taking me back. Thank you, Ray, for this.
There are other things like collector information, a glossary of Magic the Gathering terms, an index, a Duelist Convocation application, which I really enjoy if you want to be part of the DCI. There's a lot going on within that book. So you can find them on Amazon. We were going to buy one, but Ray, our, again, graphics maestro, let us know he had one. So thanks for shipping it over, and thank you from reading from it.
The little bit of Ray's personality coming through here is that in the collector's information, the checklist, some of these cards are checked off and some of them are not.
Yeah!
So I hope this was Ray's, him trying to track the what he had of the set and what he was missing.
Love that. One other thing that was introduced, this is our last fact of the set here, and this is what we kind of teased leaving our last episode, is that Revised brought something to Magic that was not here before, which is the tap symbol, which is very useful. It's a slightly tilted T inside a gray circle. The artifact types mono and poly, which were introduced at the beginning of the set, along with continuous, became obsolete and were removed from cards that had them. So if you remember, mono artifacts were cards like Basalt Monolith, Mana Vault, and Soul Ring. Poly artifacts were cards like Ivory Cup, Crystal Rod, and Throne of Bone. With the introduction of the tap symbol, those cards changed.
Yeah, and they decided to hand wave the complexity of haste not applying to creatures, but does apply to artifacts that have activated powers.
Yeah.
This is a really good summary of sort of front-loaded cost in game designs. It can be maybe easier or a little bit more expressive up front to say mono artifact versus poly artifact, but over time it's just a lot more text on cards and a lot more to sort through, and you're better off just absorbing the slight rules complexity of haste versus haste on activated abilities being slightly different and getting rid of extraneous words that the cards don't need.
Good change. I think it's a good change, and it still changes with us today. So yes. Good change. All right. Those are the facts of Revised, aka 3rd edition. We're going to take a short break. When we do come back, we're moving on to the cycles of Revised. See you soon. All right, everybody, we are back here for the cycles portion of the Resleevables Revised Edition. And I'm sure you're wondering right now, Cedric, what happened to the flavor and storyline? What happened to the mechanics? Well, here's the thing. When you just reprint cards from previous sets, there's no story to tell, and there are no new mechanics to introduce. That's what happened.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So we jump right ahead to cycles, but don't worry, because we've got some things to replace those previous segments with. Revised has 5 cycles, each of which are reprinted from limited edition. All are reprinted except for the enemy color hate card Magnetic Mountain, which was first printed in
Arabian Nights.
There he is. Cycles that were not reprinted from ABU include the Moxes. No surprise there. Those cards are busted. Everybody figured that out pretty quickly. And Ancestral Recall, also not reprinted of the Boon cycle, while the other 4, Healing Salve, Dark Ritual, Lightning Bolt, and Giant Growth, are reprinted here and revised. Let's go over the 5 cycles here that are in revised. We're going to start with the dual lands. We have the allied color ones, which are, of course, Tundra, Underground Sea, Badlands, Taiga, and Savannah, alongside the enemy colored dual lands, which are Scrubland, Volcanic Island, Bayou, Plateau, and Tropical Island. Those are back. Circle Protections are back. Hooray, everyone's favorite cards. Circle Protection White, Blue, Black, Red, and Green are in the set. For those of you who have been following along with the show, you know that Circle Protection Black was left out of Alpha, slotted into Beta, and now has been in Magic core sets ever since, up until this point. We've got the Laces. Those are back with Pure Lace, Thought Lace, Death Lace, Chaos Lace, and Life Lace. We've got the Lucky Charms in Ivory Cup, Crystal Rod, Throne of Bone, Iron Star, and Green Ward. That's not right. Wooden Sphere, excuse me, is the 5th one. Excuse me. I jump ahead to the wards. I get so excited to the wards because we have your personal favorite White Ward, which
Still doesn't work.
Blue Ward, Black Ward, Red Ward, and Green Ward. And then we've got the vertical cycle, which we talked about in our ABU episode of Gray Ogre, Uthin Troll, and Sedge Troll. But perhaps
I would push back.
Okay.
I would argue that the third part of this cycle is not Sedge Troll, but Granite Gargoyle.
2/2 flyer for 3.
With butt fire breathing. I don't know what you call it. Stone skin?
Farty?
Stone skin. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Because Sedge Troll is certainly stronger than Gray Ogre, but only if you build your deck a certain way.
Yes, because you need a swamp. You need access to, swamps, yeah.
Gray Ogre and Sedge Troll in your mono red deck is the same card.
Yeah.
Granite Gargoyle is the rare that's strictly better than Gray Ogre, and I would argue quite a bit better than Uthin Troll, even though it's not strictly better.
Yep.
So because it is sort of an unambiguous upgrade to your deck, I would argue that it's Granite Gargoyle and not Sedge Troll that is the last part of the cycle.
Okay. No argument against. Now, everybody, it's time for game time with Patrick. If you've been with us for previous episodes, we've done Patrick. I name one half of the pair, he names the other half of the pair, which we're going to get to in a little bit here. But first, there are hoses that have come back in this set. I'm going to have a discussion with you about hosers after we play our game here. Patrick, here's the game in question, and of course you can play along at home if you'd like. In Revised, there are 2 hosers in each color. There are 10 hosers total.
This is excluding the Circle of Protection.
That's correct.
Okay.
Which are certainly hosers.
Right.
But yes. So, can you name the 2 hosers in white?
So back then it was enemy color aligned.
Correct.
So the anti-red one was Conversion.
That is correct.
And the anti-black one was Karma.
You are 2 for 2. Can you name the blue hosers?
Well, let me think. Blue versus green was... I'm going to come back to that. Hold on. So, is it Volcanic Eruption is the blue on red?
That is correct.
Blue on green was... I feel like it was some weirdo creature enchantment. Give me a second.
If you'd like a hint, let me know.
I'll take a hint, but I count that as not getting it.
Okay, that's fine. This set introduced the tap symbol.
Yeah, it was some weird. It's some weird enchantment. I can imagine the art in my head, but I don't.
The tap symbol. Perhaps the word tap is in the card.
Just
name.
give me the
Life tap.
Life tap.
All right. You're 3 of 4. Black.
It's black on white was glue.
That one's easy.
Black on green was death grip.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. 5 out of 6. Red.
Red on white was flash fires.
Correct.
Red on blue was magnetic mountain.
Correct. All right. 7 out of 8. Green.
Green on blue, and then green on black. So, life lace, is that the name of the life something?
Yes, it's life something. How do you want me to score this?
Don't have it.
All right, life force.
Life force, right?
Green on blue.
It's probably something with like Island Walk. Tsunami.
There we go. Oh,
all right,
my God. If you didn't get that one, that was gonna hurt.
8 out of 10.
All right, so here's my note that I have here. It is absurd to me that they had the chance to do away with hosers, and they were like, no, we need more. We're gonna bring one in from another set. We're gonna give 2 to each color.
It is especially weird when also you have the 5 circle protections.
Yeah,
and you have red elemental blast and blue elemental blast, which is doing it the right way. Just like here's an efficient 1-for-1, whatever.
Also, are they getting feedback? I don't know how they are taking on feedback from people but are like they getting feedback from people that are like, Tsunami's awesome. I want more of those.
It's questionable to me what's going on at this time. I assume there's still a philosophy of there's going to be people with much better collections than others. Is there some low-hanging fruit that people can go to improve their matchup? Okay. Some of it also is some of these card names are like flavorful, like Tsunami and Flash Fires. It's not a nothing as far as that goes. But
I agree with that.
Yeah, it is bizarre how many, especially the basic land hosers, because it wasn't like there's this deep array of non-basic lands you could play instead. You know what I mean? You had the dual lands, which counted, and then you had some weirdo lands in the first couple of sets. So it wasn't like your mono red deck had some, I can play with Inspiring Vantage and get around this. It was just like all mountains.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, again, my best guess is there's some, let's give people easy tools to improve their matchup.
The only thing I can say, I was gonna make the comment of, they could have just said, we'll give each one, like, we'll give green 1 color hoser. But if you do want to have like this is green's enemy, they have 2 enemies, like green's enemy are black and blue. So you have to have 1 for each one if you're going to go down that path. Okay, sure. I just, I question how much fun these cards were then.
Oh, they were horrible.
Yeah.
These were so bad.
Okay.
And, it's low-hanging fruit. Like, it's an easy thing to go to. Yeah, that's bad sometimes, too.
Sure.
It's like everyone just had a grip of Flash Fires and Tsunamis in all their sideboards.
Yeah, sure.
Because why not? And they were actually as good as advertised, so.
It's just always been it's not surprising because it's in the game's infancy, but clearly they have changed their tune on that.
Please just stop doing this. And they did it for so long.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like in future sets, because I've already started doing the research on other sets. It's like, no, they're in there. There's just more and more like you lose the game hoser cards.
Oh, I mean, arguably the ones in Tempest are better than these.
Yeah, so that's Boil, that's Perish.
Yeah.
Chill is around that time.
Chill, Choke. Yeah. And these are all sick.
Yeah.
And they like kept getting better. It wasn't like they slowed down. They're like, no, the problem with Karma is that it's not good enough.
It's just too expensive. Yeah. It doesn't do enough. Yeah.
Oh, Light of Day. That's another
That's black creatures can't attack.
Yes. This is an enchantment they can't blow up. It's permanent, like you're dead. Yeah. So I don't really know what's going on here, but whatever they liked about it, if they had a critique, it was not enough. If anything, not too much.
Okay. Pairs game.
Okay.
So we played this in the ABU episode. If you haven't seen that episode yet, recommend that you do. Revised has 23 pairs to ABU's 24 pairs. So here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
You did well in this previously. You crushed it. I think you got 23 out of 24. So I'm going to go through the 23 and then I'm going to see if you can figure out which one is missing.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. White Knight.
Black Knight.
That is correct. Holy Strength.
Unholy Strength.
That is correct. Crusade.
Bad Moon.
That is correct. Sarah Angel.
Sacred Vampire.
That is correct. Blue Elemental Blast.
Red Elemental Blast.
That is correct. Air Elemental.
Well, I mean, this is sort of...
You struggled with this one last time, too.
Yeah, because it's like kind of weird. It's the only one in the cycle that flies.
We'll just think of something that's tethered to the ground.
Earth Elemental.
There you go. That is correct. Water Elemental.
Fire Elemental.
That is correct. Merfolk of the Pearl Trident.
Goblin King.
Merfolk of the Pearl
Oh,
Trident.
sorry. I just misheard you. Mon's Goblin Raiders.
There we go. That is correct. Phantom Monster.
Rock of Carriages.
That is correct. Wall of Water.
Wall of Fire.
That is correct. Death Grip.
Light, whatever the name of the card is. Life Tap.
Life Force.
Life Force. Sorry.
I'm gonna give it to you.
I don't know why I keep forgetting the other card.
Orcish Oriflame.
Castle?
That is correct. Wanderlust.
Psychic Venom?
Incorrect.
Psychic Feedback?
Incorrect. Feedback.
Oh, just feedback. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Got one wrong. Brain Geyser. Oh no.
Mind Twist.
There we go. Whew. Earthquake.
Hurricane.
Correct. Flash Fires.
Tsunami?
That's correct.
Okay.
Timberwolves.
Knowledge Hero.
That is correct. Mana Barbs. You struggled with this one last time.
This is... What was the hint on? Oh, Smoke.
Incorrect.
I don't know.
Power Surge.
Oh, okay.
2 wrong today. Ankh of Mishra.
Dingus Egg.
Correct. Cormus Bell.
Oh, this is Living Land?
That's correct. Winter Orb.
Smoke.
That's correct. All right, so I think that's 21 out of 23. Okay, that's all right. So here's the one that matters. There's one pair that is gone from this set.
Okay.
There's one pair that has been removed due to power level reasons. Okay?
Power level.
Correct.
Okay.
I will give you a hint. The card that is removed, the pair is the other part of the pair is still in the set.
Oh, Time Twister Wheel of Fortune?
My man. All right. That
I was trying to think of the opposite of Copper Tablet. And I'm like,
Sure.
what's a... But you said power level, and I'm like, all right, so it's probably not Copper Tablet.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, probably not that one.
And it's not really a cycle with Ivory Tower, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, Time Twister Wheel of Fortune.
Oh yeah, you got that one pretty quick. So that kind of absolves you of the couple of misses. But yeah, Time Twister gone because the entire Power 9's not in the set. Right.
Correct.
So Mox, Walk, Lotus, 5 Moxes, Walk, Lotus, Twister, and
Walk, Ancestral.
Ancestral is the one. Yeah, that was the one I was not.
It's
thinking
really
of.
weird to cut Time Twister and not Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah.
It's sort of mistaking the cause and effect. It's not that shuffling your graveyard is really that strong. It's that the blue cards are so sick.
Sure. Sure.
That's really what the problem is.
Sure. Yeah, it is a little weird that that's still left over, but it is. So it is. Everybody, that's the cycles of Revise. Not a lot of new stuff going on there, but some minor tweaks and changes. Now we are going to turn towards the misprints, the trivia, and one of my favorite parts of Revised, Summer Magic, right after this. All right, everybody, it is now time for the misprints, the trivia, the weirdo facts, and as I've already alluded to, Summer Magic, which we'll be getting to here in just a bit. There are people who don't even know what Summer Magic is.
Yep.
Kind of wild.
I mean, I didn't know what it was for a really long time. There was someone who started coming into the only game in town who was like the first, like, I'm a collector. That's the way that I engage with this.
Okay.
And he had a binder full of Summer Magic cards. And he showed it to me like, check this out. And I was like, I don't know what these are.
Sure.
They just look like 4th edition cards. When you say these cards are worth $100, I don't believe you.
Yep.
But whatever. He was right and I was wrong.
And there you go. Let's talk about some misprints real quick here. Ivory Tower from Margaret Organ Keane, Kean. Her name was misspelled as Margaret Organ Keane, Keen. The same misspelling in Antiquities. If you were with us for that episode, it happened again here. So, whoopsies. Onulet, aka
Picnic table.
There it is. Incorrect artist listed, excuse me. It should be Anson Maddox, not Kirsten Kamen, which it's correctly listed in its debut in Antiquities. We just made a little oopsie here in Revised. Sure. Plateau. Once again, incorrect artist listed. It should be Cornelius Broody, not Drew Tucker. Different artwork here on Plateau in Revised from the ABU versions, which was drawn by, you guessed it, Drew Tucker. Now let's get into Serendipity.
Yeah.
Here we go. So it was printed with a green background and the picture of If-Biff Ifrit.
Which is a green card.
That's correct.
So they basically took the plate of If-Biff and put it there.
Yeah. Now, Serendipity is a blue card. So it still has the proper casting cost and text because Serendipity, if memory serves, is 2 and a blue, so 3 mana total, 3/4 flyer, 1/2 on every upkeep. Nice. The French version, printed with the correct background and picture, has flavor text that's missing on the English card. And this is just the whole mess.
Right. It's pretty rough. And it was also really prevalent because this is perhaps the strongest card in the set that is from the Arabian Nights Antiquities swath of cards.
Sure.
So getting your hands on Serendipity was like a big deal once you kind of got fluent with the game. And so you were constantly looking at this green If-Biff Ifrit that was wrong.
And you have to also remember, too, I think that this was in the era of not the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So they could very easily, if something like this happened nowadays, which it wouldn't, but if it did, you can very easily communicate and be like, hey, sorry, this is what happened and whatever. Or like, mail in your messed up copies. We'll give you real copies or whatever, right? You could fix this problem. I imagine back in 94, like if you're running to this, it's just like, is that real? That like, did you make that? Like what's going on and how do you even explain it?
It's a weird situation, but we basically figured it out because, okay, let's say you don't know about If-Biff Ifrit.
Okay.
You look at this card, certainly confusing that it's a blue card with a green border on it.
Yep.
But you don't know the art's wrong.
Okay, sure.
And the card just plays fine.
Sure.
As you become a little bit more familiar with other stuff, you see the original Serendipity Ifrit at someone's shop or whatever, and you go, oh, I guess there's a mistake here. Or you see If-Biff Ifrit and you're like, oh, I guess that's what the mistake is. So at first blush, it's weird, but there's no other interpretation you can make other than, I guess this just randomly has a green border. And then once you see the original Serendip and or If-Biff, you sort of piece together what the mistake was.
The thing that I would like about this, if I was playing during that time and wasn't, super young or however young I was at that time, is like, this is the discovery of everything, right? Like pre-internet, which we've talked about a little bit on the show because you and I have lived in the pre and post-internet era of this world of just like, what is that? And then like you being confused, like never seen the card before, whatever. And then you discovering that like, oh, they made like an error and then like seeing like what the right cards are and everything. And it's just like, that's kind of cool. Like that's unique.
To the extent that there's any confusing interactions with this card in Revised, I believe it is just Red Elemental Blast.
Okay,
That's
sure.
the only thing where it's like, so is this green or blue?
Yeah, sure.
Otherwise, it's just a weirdo, but there's no confusion that comes along with it.
Okay. Let's dive in to Summer Magic now. When Revised was in production in 1994, a number of problems with the set became apparent. The cards were washed out. The picture for Serendipity Ifrit was wrong, as we mentioned. Wizards wanted to remove satanic images on some of the cards. Now, this is the thing that people probably don't know, which was, I think, like, so the big standout to me when I was growing up is like Unholy Strength.
There were a handful of them. Unholy Strength is one of the most prevalent ones. Keep in mind that we're not really that far removed at this point from some of the satanic moral panicking around Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And because the games share an aesthetic, those cards were pointed at as being like demonic or satanic or whatever.
Yep.
My parents didn't care.
Yep.
But like, if I was 9 years old and still going to church, I think they would have cared.
See, so this is interesting to me because I have to ask my mom this. So my mom is like really into church, and my dad isn't that much. My dad collects comic books, right? And so when I started playing, it was just kind of like, okay, sure, right? Like I played video games growing up and stuff like that, but like I could see a world where like maybe my parents argued about this. I didn't really know, where it's just like, those are satanic cards. My dad's like, it's fine. Like I read Spider-Man, like let him just be a nerd or whatever, right? But I know that was a thing where it's like, you can't play this game. Or something that was more common, it's not a direct parallel, but this is just kind of like the world that we grew up in, was like, do you remember how like with music, it was just like, no, you can't buy that CD.
Yeah.
Right. Like I can't think of exactly which album, but like the first one that jumps to mind right now, I'm sure you have a older example. It's just like Eminem's first album. Like when I was growing up, parents were just like, absolutely not. Right. And I imagine the same thing was going on. Like, hey, I want to play Magic. And like one of the parents looks at the cards and it's just like, no way, you can't do this.
Well, my mom was sort of, I think, mellowing out a little bit, which now I appreciate as having 3 kids of my own. It's like, you can't fight every fight.
Sure.
So we grew up at a time where parental advisory, explicit lyrics were still labels put on albums.
Yep.
The comic book code authority.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
So in the 1950s, 40s, there was a lot of horror and sort of crime sort of comic books that were pretty popular.
Okay.
And there was some moral panic about that stuff. I don't remember exactly what, but some psychologists testified in front of the United States Congress that this was like leading to deviant or worse behavior. And then the comic book code authority was like basically a stamp that was, this book is safe for kids. You can see it up here in the corner of that one.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, that was a thing all the way up until when I was
right there. Approved by the comic. That's nuts. Okay.
So, I mean, that was a thing in like the 90s, like when I started collecting comic books, that was still going on in the new issues.
Okay.
The first time I remember my mom sort of getting a sense of some of the music I was listening to was I left out the lyric book for 9 Inch Nails' Downward Spiral.
Okay.
And she came into my room and she was like, please don't leave that out.
Sure.
It wasn't don't listen to that. It's like, don't compel me to read this.
Yeah, sure.
I just don't want to know. So there you go.
I'm always going to have, this is a slight tangent. I'm always going to have this. I'm going to ask my parents this at some point, over the next like year or two, maybe the next time I go back to Cleveland, because I grew up listening to, so my parents grew up listening to like Motown, Temptations, all this stuff. Right. And I grew up in like suburbs of Ohio. And I'm like listening, like what on my Christmas list was like, I want the new Korn album and the new Limp Bizkit album and stuff because of like TRL and also just all of my friends. And I just want to know, like when my parents are looking at my list of like things I want for Christmas when I'm young and they're just like, what did we do wrong?
Yeah.
How did we get here? We're like, I'm listening to this, which I still love and listen to. And they're just like, why?
Yeah.
I want to know so bad.
My mom still tells the story of I had a CD list for Christmas one year.
Okay.
And she's like, yeah, I went to the Sam Goody. I had Mystical's album on my list. And my mom walks into the Sam Goody and she's like, yeah, I'm looking for the Shake Ya Ass song. Yeah, she still complains about that one. Yeah. So some of the albums we were talking about are a little bit different because like by the time Korn and Limp Bizkit hit, I was like working a job and kind of had my own money.
Yeah,
and you were probably a little younger, but yeah, it's a lot of the same.
Yeah,
a lot of the same stuff.
I imagine my parents going into the mall in Strongsville, Ohio, and just being like, "Korn with a K?
Yep.
What is this?" And then just someone being like, "Yeah, here, everyone wants it right now." And just my parents were real troopers with me when I was a young kid. Anyway, pardon the tangent. We mentioned all of that stuff because they wanted to remove the satanic dimensions off the cards. Okay. The solution was to print a fixed version of Revised, codenamed Edgar, which has since come to be known as Summer Magic because it was printed in the summer of 1994. Remember, this product came out in April 1994. The cards were distributed in regular Revised boosters. No Summer Edition starters were produced. You mentioned that you got the Summer Edition like starters in that weird promotional thing. Oh, excuse me, you got the Revised starters in that promotional thing.
Yeah.
Summer Magic cards can best be recognized by their prominent 1994 copyright date, a feature missing in Revised, as well as richer colors in the cards. Despite its intended function of correcting these mistakes and getting these things out of the game they didn't want to have in them, Summer Magic has many problems with its printing. On some cards, the colors were too dark. Serendipity Freet has its artwork corrected. Yay. But the artist credit, wrong. Nay. So close. The artist name for Plateau, not corrected, still wrong. The pentagram, it was removed from the head of Demonic Tutor, but not from the chest. Hurricane was printed with a blue border and became famous and the most desired Summer Magic card of all time. I did a little digging around on the old eBay and saw that a copy sold for $8,000.
So I don't know if it's the most desirable card.
Okay.
For example, I think an Underground Sea a Summer Underground Sea would probably sell more than a Blue Hurricane, but it is the most iconic. It's a misprint. It's extremely rare in terms of sort of the weird one-offs in the set. It's definitely the most valued and the most sought after.
Yep.
But I don't know if it would actually sell for more money at this point than the Blue Dual Lands.
Because of these flaws with Summer Magic, because of some of these flaws, with Summer Magic, the entire print run was recalled for destruction, which is incredible to me.
Yeah, we're just gonna set it on fire.
Yeah, send it back. We're gonna destroy it. Which, when you get a call like that, I imagine naturally now, but even then, you're just like, no, not gonna give it back.
Well, it depends. If they're the only game in town for getting Magic product and you want to keep selling it, there you go.
Okay, sure.
And it's not like you would be, oh, this is going to be super rare. People are going to pay $10,000 for the Blue Hurricane.
You have no idea.
30 years from now, it's like, no, just send it back. Like, it's not. It's like if some part on your car got recalled,
sure,
you just send it.
You send it back, get the right part.
Yeah.
This led to the Great Revised Shortage of 1994, as it is so beautifully called. However, and this one's a little disputable, according to unconfirmed reports from Wizards of the Coast employees, about 40 booster boxes of Edgar were shipped to locations in the US and the UK. 40 seems like a low number. Seems like it would be more than that.
I don't have any first hand or even second hand information, but the cards are not so rare that, like, if you go to one of the large Magic Fests or you look on eBay, the stuff exists.
Yeah.
It's not a whole lot of it. It's not like you can just, I want a play set of Summer Lightning Bolts and just go get them. It's not that sort of thing. And a lot of this stuff is in people's collections, which will never see the light of day.
Yep.
But the relative commonality of the cards makes me think that it's greater than 40 boxes, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's unconfirmed, as mentioned. But the whole thing is a combination, at least for me, of cool, unique, hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
The funny part to me about this whole thing is we want to correct mistakes, and it's like, well, you still made a bunch. So
it's arguably worse.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, we set out to fix these problems. Like, revised goal one of the goals of revised. Let me reframe that. One of the goals of revised is we need to fix like our core set, right? Okay, well, like, you screwed that up because there's still problems, and then it's like, okay, well, revised, like, heart's in the right place. Revised is like 80% of the way of what we're trying to do. Let's get to the other 20%. So let's do Summer Magic, and they do that. And they're like, we screwed up again. And it's just, mistakes are not a hard thing to make. They still make them today. You know, with like some of the printings of cards, like, it's just, that word's wrong. Like, they make way less, obviously, because this is a big business now, but this stuff is easy to screw up.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I've worked on games in the 2000s that made mistakes that were way worse than what's in the air. So
sure.
Who am I to judge?
Yeah. It's just, this stuff is difficult. And, you know, when mistakes like this happen, all of a sudden it can end up unintentionally spitting out, I guess, $10,000 Magic cards.
Yep.
Right.
So for reference, I did a little research here right before we recorded. Went into some recent eBay auctions for some Summer Magic cards that closed. Summer Magic Ornithopter sold for slightly over $1,000.
Love it.
And a Summer Magic Thicket Basilisk sold for about $400. Cool. I think the basic lands run in the $250 to $500 range. Jeez. Last I looked. And obviously the marquee cards, you know, the dual lands, things like Demonic Tutor, Swords of Plowshares, those, when they come up, sell for thousands and thousands of dollars.
See, now, you want to make cool tournaments with cool prizes. I know there's always been this talk around Magic over the past like handful of years of just like prize structure should be larger and all this other stuff, right? I think, like, can you just imagine it's like first place is a blue Summer Hurricane?
Yeah,
that's just awesome.
I'd rather
have that than the money.
Yeah, it's because it's like a cool trophy.
Yeah,
super rare.
Yeah, it's just I think that's what makes a really cool tournament. Or, you know, like some smaller tournaments, it's like, yeah, first place is a Summer Ornithopter.
Yeah, the for Versus System, the old Marvel DC trading card game, we ran a tournament at our first Pro Tour that was like first prize is a copy of Fantastic Four #1.
Yeah,
it's like
that's amazing.
That's so much cooler than giving them the $1,000 it was worth at the time.
Yeah, that's so much better.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody, that's the misprints. That's Summer Magic. That's some of the weird things going on with the set. When we come back, a little new segment here. We're going to talk about the changes, the swaps, the ins and the outs from ABU to revised right after this. We are back on the Resleevables revised edition, talking about now the changes that have taken place here, because as we talked about in the facts portion over the course of this episode, revised is basically a revised edition of Alpha Beta Unlimited, right? So that means they're swapping cards in, they're swapping cards out. They're trying to essentially make the perfect core set, and in my opinion, the perfect introductory product to Magic.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the goal with revised. So 39 cards from revised were not printed in Unlimited, right? So that means that they came from Arabian Nights and Antiquities.
Correct.
So here are your 39. Aladdin's Lamp, Aladdin's Ring, Armageddon Clock, a Tog, not a Tog, a Tog. Bottle of Sullivan, Brass Man, Crumble, Dancing Scimitar, Desert Twister, Dragon Engine, Dwarven Weaponsmith, Ebony Horse, your boy, El Hijaj.
Yes.
Made it in. Energy Flux, Erg Raiders, Eye for an Eye. Less so, your boy, Flying Carpet.
You know, I don't like the update. What can I say?
Hercules Recall, Island Fish.
Jasconius.
Thank you. I can't ever say that word. Ivory Tower, Jandor's Ring, Jandor's Saddlebags, Kurdape, Magnetic Mountain, Maije Jin, Millstone, a banger, Mishra's War Machine, Onulet, a.k.a.
Picnic Table,
Ornithopter, Primal Clay, Reconstruction, Reverse Polarity, Rocket Launcher, Serendipifreet, Shatterstorm, Sorcerer's Queen, The Rack, Titania's Song, and Unstable Mutation.
Pretty solid list of cards.
None of those cards are like overpowered, right?
Let me think. Would I describe any of those cards as overpowered?
I'm trying to think of the best card on this list, and I guess back in the day, Ivory Tower?
Yeah, that's the one that I would probably walk back out of this list.
Okay.
Card's just not that much fun.
Sure.
And at uncommon, it means it's part of like the new player experience. They're constantly playing with and against Ivory Tower. Not great.
Okay.
But as far as the list goes, I would say pretty judicious selection of cards.
Mm-hmm.
Relatively simple and not particularly deck building specific.
Okay.
By and large. I mean, there is Kurdape, there is a little bit of that going on, but especially when you go back and look at Antiquities, everything is just artifacts. And the list of cards here, naturally, yeah, there are some cards that care about artifacts because every card in the set does, but it's a much gentler touch than a lot of the more laborious cards that are in Antiquities. So, pretty solid list. Like I said, I think Ivory Tower is a mistake to do. Magnetic Mountain's not great.
Yeah.
Could maybe do without Bottle of Sullivan.
Okay.
Just flip a coin, kill yourself card, or get a 5/5.
Yeah, that is like one of the first like flip a coin type cards that they started doing.
Although maybe it's just sweet as a one of design. I don't know. So yeah, other than Ivory Tower, that's a pretty solid list, I would say.
All right, next up, I got 35 cards here from Unlimited that did not get printed and revised.
Oh.
So these are the cards that didn't make it from ABU. Ancestral Recall. These cards are going to be powerful or complex. Ancestral Recall, Berserk, Black Lotus, Blaze of Glory, Camouflage, Chaos Orb, Dexterity card, Consecrate Land, Copper Tablet, Cyclopean Tome, the Dwarven Demolition Team, False Orders, Force Field, Gauntlet of Might, Ice Storm, Icy Manipulator, Illusionary Mask, Invisibility, Ironclaw Orcs, Jade Statue, as you mentioned previously, Lich, Mox Emerald, Jet, Pearl, Ruby, and Sapphire, so all 5 Moxes, no way, Natural Selection, Psionic Blast, Raging River, Sinkhole, Time Vault, Time Walk, Time Twister, Twiddle, Two-Headed Giant of Freeze, thank you, and last but certainly not least, Word of Command.
So there's more going on in that list, I would argue, than just power level complexity.
Okay.
Some of it is quality of life, and some of it is color bleed.
Okay.
So, Psionic Blast. Not particularly complicated. Certainly strong, but certainly much weaker than Lightning Bolt. But out of pie for blue.
Yeah.
Get it out of here. There was the Ice Storm and Sinkhole examples, too.
Okay.
One, maybe color pie bleeding. Although in early Magic it's confusing.
Ice Storm is 2 and a G, destroy land.
It's green Stone Ring.
Got it. Okay.
And Sinkhole's black.
Yep.
And there's a question of, is that color pie appropriate? And also, do we want to have 3 really good Stone Rains at low rarity?
Sure.
Maybe we can get away with just Stone Rain.
Okay.
Which is what the Gazen revised.
Yep.
So the lion's share of that list is high rarity cards that are either powerful or complicated or both. But there is a little bit of quality life color pie stuff. Also, you said Dwarven Demolition Team?
Gone.
That's another one that's hard to make sense of.
What does that card do?
I believe it's red 2/1/1 tap, kill a wall.
Okay, it's right here probably.
So is that out of pie for red? Is not a power level thing. Arguably, it doesn't play that well, but like someone who's sitting there with a bunch of walls is like a good person to go after. So I'm interested in that one.
Okay.
But yeah, the list by and large is, the highlights are obviously the Power 9
yeah.
and similar.
Yeah. Okay. And then the following cards I got here had some rarity shifts from their last printing. So let's talk about these. Island was removed from the rare printing sheet. Get it out of here. Armageddon Clock was an uncommon in Antiquities and is now rare. Crumble was a common in Antiquities and is now uncommon. Dragon Engine was a common in Antiquities and is now rare. Okay. Eye for an Eye was an uncommon.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Dragon Engines are rare? Oh my god. This card is
you didn't see that coming,
so bad. Really?
I would confirm really quick.
That is something. I had no idea.
All right, let me make sure real quick. Yeah, this card stinks. Look at this thing.
This card is so bad.
Okay, Dragon Engine. I'm on the wonderful website of Scryfall. So this is 3 mana.
This card is so bad.
3 mana, 1/3. 2 to give it +1/+0.
Right.
Really good alongside the Tron.
Yeah.
It is. I got it right here. Revised
Wow.
edition. It is a rare.
That is
confirmed.
I mean, Juggernaut is an uncommon
Sure.
in the set. Wow. It's not very often that I am completely blown away by a piece of information from these sets. I have no recollection of that card being rare. Wow.
Flying Carpet was an uncommon in Arabian Nights. Now it's a rare. Ivory Tower was an uncommon in Antiquities. It's a rare in this set.
Mm-hmm.
Magnetic Mountain was an uncommon in Arabian Nights and is now a rare. Millstone was an uncommon in Antiquities. Went up to a rare. The Picnic Table, Onulet, was an uncommon in Antiquities. Now is a rare. Busted. Ornithopter was a common in Antiquities. Jack it up. It's an uncommon now. Primal Clay was an uncommon in Antiquities and is now rare. Reverse Polarity was a common in Antiquities and is now uncommon. Rocket Launcher was an uncommon in Antiquities and is now rare. Shatterstorm was a rare in Antiquities. Bring it down. It's an uncommon in Revised. Sorcerer's Queen was an uncommon in Arabian Nights and is now rare. And Titania's Song was an uncommon in Antiquities and is now rare. So most things moved up in rarity, for lack of a better term, with I think only Shatterstorm moving down.
Well, keep in mind that also there was weird stuff going on with rarities at the time, and like, are there rares in Arabian Nights and different rarities among the uncommon sheets?
Yep.
So a lot of the moving up of uncommon to rare is kind of approximating keeping it at the same rarity as it was in these sets.
Sure.
But Dragon Engine, just got to make sure people can't get that one.
You got to open that up and just, there it is. There it is. Look at this banger.
Wow.
That's right.
Rare.
That's the matter reshaper of its time, maybe.
No,
3 mana. You can play 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, it's it is kind of like a matter reshaper of, like, you know, it's easy to kill, but why would you?
Sure. It's a real humdinger. Fungosaur time. Received a functional change, adding a +1/+1 counter at the end of turn instead of each time it was damaged. Did you know that?
I did not, but that makes sense.
Okay. Did you know that this would be reversed in 8th edition?
I did not, but that makes sense.
I like just make a new card. You can't just keep changing it. Goblin King became a lord instead of a Goblin King. In revised, Goblin Brigade's text was reworded to make it clear that it gave flying only to itself instead of potentially other goblins if there was any confusion, which I know back in the day there was. And then Gloom's text referred to white enchantments with activation cost instead of circle of protections.
Right, because at the time when Gloom was printed in alpha, the total sum of white cards was the white cards, and then the circle of protections were the only thing with activated abilities.
Yep.
That started changing, you started adding cards with activated powers, and it's like, oh, we're probably going to do stuff beyond the circle of protections. We'll just call out white cards.
So those are your changes, everybody. From the cards that were in ABU to revise. They had to, again, the goal of this whole thing, as best we know, was just to kind of clean some things up.
Was Fungasaur really in 8th edition?
I confirm right now. You don't believe me?
No, it's just like we just gotta keep giving people Fungasaurs.
Okay, Fungasaur.
So it's not that important.
No, it's
off topic.
It's a hard card to spell, so I got it wrong in the first go. SAUR. Where are you? Okay, look at this banger.
Oh my!
Got new artwork here. It's probably right here, right now. The 8th edition version. I don't know. Our wonderful editor John's crushing it here as usual. 8th edition. When Fungasaur is dealt damage, put a +1/+1 counter on it. The damage is dealt before the counter is put on. Thanks, reminder text. Let's see all versions of the print. I want to go to. Jeez, there's so many Fungasaurs.
Yeah, there are.
Way more than I thought. So original Fungasaur says each time Fungasaur is damaged but not destroyed, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And now I'm going to find revised version, which I am assuming is this whiteboarded one. Each time Fungasaur is damaged but not destroyed. No, that's unlimited. That's my B. Here we go. Yeah, there it is. At the end of turn, during which Fungasaur was damaged but not destroyed, put a +1/+1 counter on it.
So if I had to guess why,
okay.
So there's two possibilities.
Okay.
One more likely than the other. One is what I believe is the most likely is it's actually kind of annoying to track the. Okay, so I prodigal this thing. Now it's a 3/3, but it actually is still has a point of damage on it. So if I attack into your 2/2, it dies.
Sure.
Even though I just pumped it up to a 3/3.
Yeah.
That I think is the most likely reason. The second reason is it's theoretically a greater risk of looping in a way that's like kind of one turn, one hit kill. If you ever had something that was whenever you put a +1/+1 counter or put a counter on something, you can ping something for 1.
Okay.
And making the trigger occur at end of turn is some protection against that thing. But I would guess it's just the first one of, I constantly am just killing my own Fungasaur because in my head I think it's a 4/4, but it's actually a 4/3 because I had to deal a point of damage to it before I could put the counter on it.
So here's I got one final Fungasaur related thing that I just noticed. So the original artwork.
Banger.
It's a banger, right? I think this looks really good.
People love this thing even though it sucked the whole time.
It's never good.
But yeah, it's just a banger.
This is a really good artwork, right? And now I don't want you to see the one I'm going to point out to you. Okay, so then there's the new version from like 8th edition.
Sure.
Which is like kind of like a callback, right? I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, then we get to what's about to be up here, the 5th edition version. Now,
when we get to 5th edition, we're gonna talk a lot about the art.
Okay.
And I hate it because like these artists are super talented. They're a lot more talented than I am.
Absolutely.
But some of the art in 5th edition is like so outrageous.
This version of Fungasaur in 5th edition is like, this doesn't look like any of them.
Do you want to bring up Jump?
Jump?
Yeah, see if you can find 5th edition Jump.
Okay. I can do that.
This is perhaps the funniest art of all time.
All right, let's view all prints.
Oh, what's the enchantment that's permanently game flying?
Jump is flying. I don't remember, partner.
You got to find it. You got to find the 5th edition.
Do we find this, or do we move on to
We gotta
the
find
award
it
show?
first.
Okay,
We've been slow rolling
All
this.
right,
For a while.
I bet it's on the screen right now. So, is this card in other sets?
It's an alpha.
It's an alpha. Okay, all right. I'm sure everyone at home is just like, it's this card, you buffoons. 5th edition. There it is. Oh.
It's like what is going on there? That art just brings me so much joy. I hope we timed it well in terms of getting it up on the screen. Sorry for the delay, and I'm embarrassed that I forgot the name of the card Flight. But that art is so good. It looks like someone. It looks like a close-up of someone having shot a zebra out of a cannon. It does not look like it is flying. Oh,
Okay.
5th edition.
Okay.
Keep it tight.
Comparatively, yes, you are correct. It does not look like anything. Okay. That's a 6th edition art too.
Yeah,
They
ran
kept
back.
They kept it for another set.
So nice, we did it twice.
Okay. We are gonna take a break. When we come back, it's the award show for Revised. All right, everybody, we are back for your favorite part of the show, our favorite part of the show, everybody's favorite part of the show. It is time for the award show for Revised. And as always, we kick things off with the Oko Thief of Crowns Award for Best Card in the Set. Patrick, you may begin.
Setting aside the anti-cards, which are their own thing, my answer is Dark Ritual.
Powerful.
I think it's the one card that you could point to in the set that you very plainly could not do this for standard level play.
Well, I argue there are 2 cards then. My selection is Demonic Tutor, which I also do not think you could do for standard level play.
It would be a bad bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, Demonic Tutor is a fine call as well.
All right, this is an impromptu question. So the Demonic Tutor effect, which is obviously just like, mana search for a card, right? So they do it at Diabolic Tutor for 4. And that's not overpowered. It's arguably unplayable. Can you do it for 3?
I designed one at 3 that made it to print. And obviously the cards we're mentioning are all weaker than Soul Ring, but we're going to get to Soul Ring.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Whatever. You designed one?
Yeah. The Mill Yourself for 13 and then Demonic.
Oh, I don't remember that card.
It's from Crimson Vow, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I just pitched it in a meeting because we wanted the number 13. We had a hole for a black rare, blah, blah, blah. And the idea of exiling 13 and then picking up your deck to tutor it and the card you want to get is gone, you gotta go get something else that's too funny to me.
Funny. Okay,
So
sure.
I just pitched that because I was like, well, it's a tutor that could miss. That's very funny to me.
Okay.
And we get the number 13 in there and well, whatever. I also think like the incentives are better that way. Like you might play 2 copies of the card you want to tutor for. Because
yeah, sure, because you can
you
mill
lose
one.
it sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that card was at 3 mana and I would be shocked if it got played at all.
Okay. The Carnival Souls Award for the worst card in Revised. I select, as I've previously done before, Conservator.
I'm going to keep it real, Farmstead.
Yeah, no reason to change.
Still horrendous.
Yeah, and some of our awards are going to repeat, and some of them will not. Like the Doomblade Award for best non-rare in the set. Now, when we did our Alpha Beta Unlimited review, technically, we kind of forgot to mention a couple of cards along the way because they didn't fit into the awards or the cycles or anything else. This gives us an opportunity to totally redeem ourselves, as they would say in Dumb and Dumber. My selection for best non-rare is Lightning Bolt. Still good today.
Gonna give it to Source of Plowshares. Another, tournament staple to the extent that it's legal. Back in the day, it was one of the first cards you try to get 4 copies of because it was lower rarity and really, really good. And you would, if you print it in standard, it would be a big problem. So.
Yes. But Lightning Bolt, I think, would be fine in standard. That's interesting.
It's a constraint.
Okay.
I think that if you make it legal in standard once every 8 years or so, that's about right. It's fun, it plays well, and it's evocative and iconic. It is also really, really good and is very punishing towards, mid-range creatures with 3 toughness.
Sure.
So I think the joke gets old. I think doing it in M10 and not doing it since, or they did in M11 as well.
I think so, yeah.
But like it was legal for a couple of years and they haven't touched it since.
Yep.
I think that's correct. If they reprinted it in the next 5 years for standard, I wouldn't be shocked. I also wouldn't be shocked if they didn't do it. So
sure, it's a can that you can open back up every once in a while.
It's cheap heat.
Yeah,
it's cheap heat.
Yeah. Let's go to the Oboro Palace in the Clouds Award for one of in the set. Look, I'm not gonna defend this in a meaningful way. My answer is Balance. Doesn't seem like a card that you play a lot of copies of.
Well, they don't let you do that.
Yeah,
that's why.
Also that. Yeah,
but you play when you could play with 4 of those things. You play.
You probably do that.
So there are certain circles of the very old school Magic scene that predates me. The general, common knowledge about that time is Brian Weissman's The Deck.
Yep.
Was the best deck. That was what Type 1 Vintage Magic was, which is like a blue control deck with all the power. You would look at the deck list and say, okay, I understand why that was good. People have told me that no, in fact, the best deck was basically 4 balance, all the artifacts that made mana, and 4 Atogs. That was actually the best. That was actually the best deck.
Okay.
I haven't seen a list. I can't verify this independently, but when you could play with 4 balance, apparently that was a thing. That was a thing to do.
Okay. Do you remember your fun of one of?
I do. I think I want to change it. I want to give it to Regrowth.
All right.
Regrowth is a really fun card to play exactly once.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a lot of these things. It's small doses.
Let's move on to the Mystic Confluence Award for best vintage cube card in the set. My selection as a human who likes to force mono white strategies, I select Swords of Plowshares.
I'm gonna select Underground Sea.
Okay.
Just want to play with the most cracked cards. And that casts nearly all of them. It's basically every cracked card except for Palace Jailer. Card
sure.
Card can cast. Love me an Underground Sea.
Keep passing that in cube.
Yeah, just
keep it coming. All right, it's 4 mana. That's so much.
Oh yeah, and it's just a removal spell.
That's gonna win some award. Well, I don't even know what set that card's from. Whatever supplementary product when we get to that 4 years from now, that's winning some awards from me.
Yeah.
Smothering Tide Award for best commander card in the set. I don't want to make too many people in the comments upset, but I think we got a good answer here.
I'm gonna give it a Sol Ring.
I'm gonna give it to Sol Ring as well.
I hope you're all happy with this really informed, really interesting selection.
It was number 1 in EDH.
It's highly ranked in EDH. They've printed it 40,000 times at this point.
That's right.
Keep you people happy. You people definitely meant as a pejorative. I'll give it to Sol Ring.
Pack Rat Award for best limited card in the set. You selected.
Gonna keep it real with Millstone.
Okay.
We're still ways away from attacking.
That's sure.
You could argue, there's Fireball, Disintegrate. Those are in the conversation, and they're lower rarity. But Millstone is just really hard to beat.
So I have gone. You don't know my answer. I've gone to the no attacking route as well. Aladdin's Ring. 4.
Not a bad choice.
Well, I don't know if it's good enough.
It is.
It's expensive.
I mean, it is busted.
Yeah.
It's expensive, but yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't get shattered. But I guess you can say the same.
Millstone's basically the same card, except it's 2 and 2 instead of
8 and 4.
8 and 4.
Yeah. Okay. Char Rumbler Award for the weirdest card in the set. I select Bottle of Sullivan, which is we're flipping some coins, and if the flip goes well, I think the payoff is good, and if the flip goes poorly twice, you basically lose. It seems like, because you take 5 damage each time the flip goes bad. Flavor wise, it's kind of cool, but it is a bit of a weirdo.
It is a bit of a weirdo. I'm gonna give it to Power Sync.
Okay.
It's a really odd card to do at low rarity, and it basically kind of introduces the idea of on resolution, a thing occurs that does not use the stack nor introduces a priority point, which is pretty odd, and you can tell it's odd because the card is a brick of text. And why do this at a low rarity?
Feels like a rare.
Yeah, you could definitely do it at rare. Also on power level, I mean, it's a different time back then because Counterspell is just on the house to just give you that one. But I mean, it's way better than Syncopate.
I just want to make sure that Power Sync isn't a rare. I doubt that it is. Yeah, it's an uncommon in Vintage Masters. Can't wait till we get to those sets.
I would be shocked if this was a rare when Counterspell was not a rare.
Let's see what we got here. All right, as a common.
Yeah.
That's a weird common.
Very weird.
Okay. Let's move on to the blank award for best card name in the set. Patrick, you gonna dial up your old friend here? Do you remember what you put?
I don't.
Fungasaur.
Oh yeah, Fungasaur.
Yeah, your buddy.
So much fun.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like a dinosaur, but it's like fungus. So if you mess around with it, it just sort of grows by itself.
It's like from The Last of Us. For those of us who watched that show.
It's very like feels magic specific thing, but not totally weird.
I'm trying not to laugh thinking of the 5th edition art right now for that and jump.
For Flight, you mean?
Oh yeah, for Flight and Fungasaur.
This is the zebra like
the Fungasaur artwork looks like a dinosaur from an ABC show on a budget.
I know. 5th edition is wild.
The best card name in the set for me is Wrath of God. Speaks for itself. Iconic. There's a lot of good card names, obviously, in early Magic, but that one still hits home for me. It's a banger. We got the John Avon Award for best land artwork in the set. I went with Bayou during ABU. I'm not changing it. It looks worse with a white border, but it's still great artwork.
Yeah, it's one of the ones where you really feel the pain of moving to white border more than just about any other. I'm going to keep it with the Forest Path artwork. Still love that one. Was blown away by it when I was a kid, when I first started playing Magic, and every time I look at it, it's still just something about it. I think it's beautiful.
Realist Fury Award for most overhyped card during previous season, and Tarmogoyf Award for most underhyped card during previous season. Still on hiatus, but will be coming to a show near you soon, we do promise. Which means we've got one more thing left to do. All right, time to close her down. What card won revised for you?
What card won revised?
I have your pre-show answer, but your during the show answer may change.
Thinking about it. What did I say initially?
Pre-show, you said Shivan Dragon.
Yeah. I still, obviously there's some personal bias there because I remember my younger brother opening one and me being like, I have to own that card.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also emblematic of just the pivot in power level. The ABU experience is defined a lot by just the busted blue cards and artifacts. And this card sort of demonstrated that you could still make appealing things even at a more modest and sustainable power level. People would still love the game if this was the best thing going on. It still wasn't the best thing going on, but it's closer when not every game is starting off with like 4 mana off of Moxes and just casting Stone Rains or whatever, kind of what the game looked like back then.
Yep.
And I think that there's something really positive and you can draw a lot of lessons from about, no, the cards can still be cool even if the game is at a lower power level overall.
My answer is Birds of Paradise, which is a card we have not mentioned on this episode once. Much like Shivan Dragon, even though they're very different cards, they're both iconic Magic cards to this day. Birds of Paradise obviously sees more play than Shivan Dragon, but I think they are both iconic in their own ways. With them powering down revised and no power 9, a bunch of stuff, and ignoring the anti cards as we oftentimes do here. Just a really good card, man. Just a really good card.
And I think your point about the reduced power level really comes through with Birds of Paradise.
Yeah.
Card's not bad.
Yep.
I mean, it still shows up in competitive Magic and is extremely desirable and people want it even though it's been printed a bunch of times and all of that. But compare it to a Mox. It's just like so much worse.
Yeah.
And when a design like this that's so appealing and also quite good is just not part of the ecosystem because it's much worse than the artifacts that you've made. Getting rid of the artifacts lets cards like this shine. And Birds of Paradise, when I started playing with this set, was among the most desirable cards. Certainly in terms of things outside of the Shivan Dragon, Force of Nature, Mahamodi Jin, these sort of the iconic big creatures that were really desired. Birds was like the top of the list.
Yeah.
And you don't get to that point with the moxes and such floating around.
So now we come to our final question, as we always do. We're going to give the set a grade. I'm going to go first, get my answer out of the way here. Was undecided coming into the show. Now that I have had the opportunity to do the show with Patrick, I'm going to give this set a 7. Good goals. Weren't executed perfectly as we've gone over, but heart in the right place. They come out of the chute with ABU. Don't know what they're doing because why would they? Some cards are too powerful. Okay. We need to correct this a little bit and just kind of balance some things out. And over the course of Magic's history, we have seen this happen before where they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's bring it down. Now, the first thing I think of when it comes to that is like Mercadian Masks following up Saga Block, and they're like, okay. But like when we get to that, maybe we'll see how true that was then, right? I feel like that's what they were trying to accomplish here. And I think for the most part, they got it right. Let's ignoring the, clerical errors or whatever. I think their heart was in the right place. I think they basically accomplished their goal. And also, given the big print run of this set, and I imagine during that time, because this is like when you got your first product, right? It's just like, I'm hearing these things about like Magic and people are playing it and like, what product should I buy for someone who wants to start? And it's like this one, which is the correct decision, right? Like you shouldn't start with Alpha and Beta and Unlimited. You shouldn't start with Antiquities or Arabian Nights. You should start here. And, the rulebook sucks and the player pocket guide is funny, but like, it kind of accomplishes a goal. But like, this is really the first, in my opinion, true core set of like, this is an introductory product. We're trying to get people into this game. We've printed a lot of it. Start here, please. And I think as a starting point for the game, I think they actually ended up doing a good job. Not perfect, but a pretty good job.
So I gave this at a 9. With acknowledging that there's just a lot of personal nostalgia and bias along with that. So start from, you have to have the idea in the first place that the power level outliers are problematic for the game long term.
Okay.
That is not an easy place to get to. And often designers, and you could even point to like relatively recent Magic sets even, seem like, well, the goal is to just make the thing slightly better than the thing that came before it. And to have the wisdom and foresight at that time when the game's still relatively young to say, yeah, I just don't think Black Lotus should be in everyone's deck. That takes a lot of wisdom. So from a top level, goals are great and not an intuitive place to get to. It shows a lot of care about the long-term longevity of the game. The goal of let's make this a little bit simpler is also a really good one, and one that came through. And for me, at the end of the day, I played with these cards for a really long time, pretty much just these cards, and I had a blast, and so did all of my friends. And I was able to learn the game and basically understand what was going on playing with these cards. So the experience was deep, rich for what it was, and it was much simpler than ABU. You put that all together, I think it basically accomplishes its goals. The large print run certainly helps in terms of making the game more accessible. What keeps it from a 10 for me is there's just some mistakes. Like,
yeah.
Like, for God's sake, can we get rid of banding?
Yeah, sure.
Not a huge fan of Ivory Tower as a reprint. Some of the color hosers, like, can we get rid of the circle of protections already?
Yeah.
But to be fair, Magic kept doing a lot of that stuff, like, well past this point.
Oh, they weren't even close to ready to get rid of that stuff.
Wasn't even close to ready. So some things that I think were pretty transparent errors and things that I remember being frustrating as a player. Control Magic at Uncommon. Game probably could do without that. It's a really frustrating card to have in everyone's deck and all that kind of stuff. But on the balance, very, very wise and forward-thinking goals, and more or less executed them pretty well given the constraints of the time.
And I'm going to point out one more thing really quick because it's still back here. Stuff like this is a good thing. It's fun to like laugh at now.
This bangs.
But like, this is heart in the right place. We want to grow our game. This is pre-internet, obviously. Like, this resource would just live on magic.gg or Daily Magic or whatever website that they want to drive you to learn how to play the game, right? But like, having something like this is a good thing. And this is also just this is like taking a risk.
Yeah.
Right. And like that, I think these are like, this is a good risk to take, and the starter product that you got started with, like, that's a good risk to take. If I was designing a game and like, you want to get people, how do I get people into the system? You got to design products like that.
I know that I made fun of the 2-player starter, and there's some ways where it's not well executed as an introductory product, but where it is a big jump forward. People need more cards when they start.
Yeah.
A starter deck is not, you need so many cards and so many lands to even begin to build a deck. Can we just give people enough cards where they could plausibly build something resembling a deck?
Yep.
That's a huge step forward. Again, you could do a lot better than that, but identifying that as a need for players who are starting is a huge revelation.
Yeah, so they got a lot right here. It's not perfect. Few things are, but they got a lot right here with Revised, which transitions us beautifully into the next set that we will be covering. And it's a doozy. It's a big set.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not done with the script. That's how big of a set it is. And that's the set in question is Legends. Probably a Legends booster pack around here somewhere. This is the introduction of multicolored cards. Legends as a card type, and the legendary rule.
Enchant Worlds.
Yep. Well, look at you. Okay, you know some things.
Rampage.
Yep. Short-lived.
Bands with others, which
also true.
Literally doesn't work.
He hasn't even seen the script yet.
Doesn't work in the rules also.
Okay.
Because banning is a two-way street. So just because you can ban with others doesn't mean others can ban with you.
Sure.
So those lands just don't work.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, a lot to go over.
There's a ton to go over in Legends. And also, there's going to be some fun additions to the Legends episode that we think you fine folks will be looking forward to. Rumor has it that the first Magic tournament was played with Legends as the newest set. The 1994 Magic the Gathering World Championships won by, do you know who's won by?
Zach Dolan, baby.
That is correct. Will we be playing the Legends 1994 World Championship matchup?
Do we permit mana weaving? Because do we play straight up or play where it lands?
That's what rules do we play by if we were to hypothetically play the World's matchup?
Head over to the forums and weigh in on that.
Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And of course, thanks for watching. Nice job. That was really
the banning section is insane.
That was really
okay. Good. So how do other things work? Just
yeah. What's your next question? Anyway, in this fake Q&A that we're doing.
Yeah, I like banning is basically also banning sick, because if your opponent doesn't understand how it works, they just dump
you ruin them. You absolutely destroy them.
They're like attacking with their red creature into your pro red creature and a banter.
It's all fine. It's all fine.
That's dead. That art is just so. That card is so good.
Oh my god, we're still here.
Okay. Dude, it's an entire set of art like this. Okay. It does not look like a magic set.
It's just a zebra up and around.
Oh, wow. So good.
All right, here we go. It's showtime. All right. Where all systems go, short. Oh, yeah. Snap them off.
The Resleevables Revised Edition, take one and only.